Welcome to the Genesis of the Doctor podcast, where we're taking a journey through the time and space of the history of Doctor Who. I'm Joy.
And I'm Tris.
And for today's episode, we are continuing Season 3 of Classic Doctor Who with Mission to the Unknown and The Mythmakers. I have to admit, my first thought about Mission to the Unknown is that they could have used better lighting in a lot of those scenes.
Yeah. I definitely understand the intent was to kind of capture the 60s, like to make it feel like back then, but oh my god, it was really dark like the entire time.
Apparently they filmed it in color and then changed it to black and white, which I assume is probably why it was so dark, because they probably didn't realize how dark it would be until they made the conversion or something.
Yeah,
But
I don't know.
It's a bit of an interesting story, though. Like, obviously,
It is.
we don't have... None of the TARDIS team shows up, which is kind
And
of
that's
why
like
they
our
were
first
able to...
time.
That's why they were able to recreate it like this, was because you didn't have any actors people would recognize. That.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense now.
Apparently, this was basically like an elevator pitch for a Dalek spin-off from Terry Nation, where it would have been like the
Really?
Secret Service people that this guy was a part of,
Uh-huh.
and they were like going to fight Daleks and stuff, and nothing ever really came of that. Although it's also
Fighting Daleks without the Doctor just doesn't sound interesting, though.
yeah. This is also, as I said, like basically the premise of Dalek's Master Plan, which we'll be watching soon.
Mm-hmm. That's true. It's the premise, it's like the prologue to all of that, which is a little weird to have before that serial. Like, as a
Yeah.
one-off single episode with an entire serial in between it. It's a little weird.
Yeah, well, this was like the last one that they did in their last production unit, so
Mm-hmm.
technically they could have shifted around, but I guess I just decided to just leave it at the beginning.
Yeah, I
the
don't know.
the
It's definitely weird, but I think what I found weirder is the fact that the Daleks were like really teamwork heavy here, which we don't normally see. Like, they were working with other races, and yes, it's their master plan. They're setting up a whole big thing here, but I can't say I really quite understood exactly what was going on, other than ooh, Earth.
yeah, it is a little funny. I guess they were just thinking like, well, if the Doctor shows up, we're gonna need help, so we're gonna make sure we have help.
That's so weird for the Daleks nowadays. Like,
Yeah,
nowadays, meanwhile, you have like in Power of the Doctor. It's like, oh, the Daleks would never work with anyone. Oh, the Master got them working with the Cybermen. Okay.
and they even kind of mention Dalek's master plan in that, because he says like it's the Master's Dalek plan, so he makes like a
Yep.
slight
He makes a
reference to it
reference.
there. But yeah, I also had a note here where it's like you really don't see them making alliances these days, other than like the Pandorica and stuff like that.
Yep. It's very
Very
rare that they
rare.
make alliances, but the Daleks nowadays are also very different to how they were back at this point too.
Yeah, post Time War Daleks are definitely different than pre Time War, and especially like
Yep.
very early on.
Mm-hmm. I gotta be real though. Like, I like that this episode tried doing a story without the TARDIS crew again as like a way to set it all up, but I gotta be real. I did not find myself caring for any of the cast, unfortunately. I think it's neat
Yeah,
that these like this university, these students were able to like recreate it. Like, I think it's neat that there's this official recreation, or I guess unofficial but officially endorsed. I don't know. It's neat that this
yeah,
recreation exists, and I like that and the effort put into it. But the story itself, I didn't really feel attached to anything going on.
yeah. It was kind of difficult to really care about the characters, especially because like almost immediately you know that like they're all just getting corrupted by like the plants and stuff.
Hmm.
We only know like
Which
the
I'm
one.
still kind of confused by.
Yeah, like the one guy might have survived, but he ended up not surviving. But everyone else, like
Hmm.
the other guy we knew, like halfway through the episode, he had already been just cut by the thing.
Yep. Yep. Infected with rabies, basically.
Yep.
Dalek space rabies or something. I don't know. It's a little weird.
Yeah. And I will say that basically the reason why they made this episode was because since Planet of the Giants was cut from 4 to 3 episodes, they had like one episode they had to just fit in somewhere. And
Uh-huh.
then also, I guess like the contracts for the main stars were probably based on like William Hartnell had already filmed another episode that didn't air, so like they probably
Mm.
just had to do one without the TARDIS crew, and then they just asked like Terry Nation, "Hey, you want to do a prologue to your next serial?"
Wait, wait. Planet of Giants. That wasn't that the start of season 2?
Yeah, but it was still like they had to get caught up somewhere because like they lost an episode there.
Right.
It
Okay.
wasn't
I
a
was gonna say
different
that
production
was a long
block,
time
but
before, but
yeah,
okay.
it was like when they were doing this second production block, they realized they were down an episode somewhere there, so they just
Oh,
had
okay.
to do a single episode thing at some point.
I mean, I like the idea of, oh, let's make a single episode instead of let's drag out a different serial with another episode, because as we've already complained about, some of these serials definitely feel longer than they need to be.
Yeah, and I mean we're about to do a 12-parter, so I'm
Yeah.
sure that's gonna feel too long. The whole Varga plant thing was definitely kind of interesting, though. Like,
It was.
it
The,
maybe
the the amount
wasn't.
of setup it had, I would be shocked if it doesn't come up in the rest of Dalek's master plan,
Yeah,
because that was like pretty important.
maybe it wasn't handled the best at times because like it's kind of complicated, like how long you can last with the infection or stuff like that.
Yeah,
But yeah,
like a typical zombie story.
it does make sense to me for Daleks to have plants that can just turn people into murderers. That checks out to me.
Checks out about the same way as modern Daleks making these weird like puppets,
Yeah,
like the sentries, whatever they call them.
yeah. And also, apparently, both this and Dalek's Master Plan were never purchased by other countries, so it's probably heavily unlikely we will ever find the originals.
Hmm.
Apparently, even when they offered Dalek's Master Plan, they decided, like, they only offered 11 of them because one of them is a Christmas special. So,
Oh,
yeah, it just, no one really wanted to buy a single episode or 11 episodes. So, they will probably never
yeah, that's
resurface.
fair.
Although I guess
I guess
three
not.
episodes, 3 episodes of Dalek's Master Plan did resurface. So
Yeah, three
I
random
guess,
episodes at that.
yeah, yeah. I don't really have
But
that much to say about this episode, though. I got to be
yeah,
honest.
yeah, I don't have a lot to say on it other than it definitely makes me curious for Dalek's master plan. I
Yeah,
hope
and
I hope I like it better than the chase, because as a Dalek story, the chase was kind of whatever in retrospect. So I hope this
yeah,
feels like a better Dalek story specifically.
yeah. They did mention as well that it's 1,000 years after Dalek invasion of Earth, so like Earth will have defenses, I assume. I guess. I mean, I guess
Presumably,
they have like their secret service, which is the people we saw in this. And
yeah,
I I
presumably.
did find it funny how like their ship had both UN on it, but then also had a Union Jack to just say like, yes, we're from the UN, but we are specifically from Great
The
Britain.
UK branch, the Britain branch of the UN.
Yeah, it's a very weird thing to put on your spaceship. I got to be honest.
It is. It is. You're gonna land on a random planet. It's like, oh, the Union Jack. The locals are gonna be raving about the British delicacies.
I guess so.
No, the point is, it like, yeah, you're right. It is a bit weird, and it kind of does take you out a little bit, because outside of like maybe like one thing on the front or like on it, it does feel a little strange. Like, I'm sure like in real
Yeah,
life with spaceships we do that. Like, you have like the American flag on American spacecraft, but like it's not going to be plastered all over.
yeah. I did also like the Alliance people. They had like interesting designs and stuff.
They did have really interesting designs. I'm definitely like curious to learn more about all that.
Yeah. I know they are in Dalek's Master Plan, so we
Right.
will see
Well,
more
it
of
would be
them.
weird if they weren't.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess it was an interesting episode, but like there's not much to say until we have seen Dalek's master plan and we know like where this is all going to go and stuff.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
is kind of dark to just have everyone dying in it though.
Yeah, I mean, dare I say that makes a good Dalek story though, because
Yeah,
that's what they're known for, and it helps make them feel scary again. Because this is kind of at the point where, as you mentioned, like Dalek Mania was kind of over. Like people were kind
yeah,
of over it, and in the chase in particular, they're way too goofy in that one, getting beaten
yeah.
up by
There.
Frankenstein and Dracula and things like that. So we need them to feel scary again.
Yeah, and just to make a note, this is when Verity Lambert has officially left the show. Technically, her replacement was
Ah,
sort of handling Galaxy 4 and Mission to the Unknown, but she was still around, and then now she has left the show. So
yeah,
the
it's like
new
she was
producer,
training her replacement basically.
yeah, the new producer is John Wiles, who's not going to be around for that long. Um,
Wow.
if you remember when we were talking about Galaxy 4, they were having a lot of arguments. Well, it was John Wiles that was arguing with them.
Mm-hmm.
So he
Oh boy.
immediately had a terrible relationship with the cast, and no one respected him. And also, he
Wow.
wanted to make the show a lot darker, and the executives didn't want him to do that, so he kind of just
So
quits.
he was at odds with everybody.
Yeah, he quits like later this season, essentially.
Wow. You would think if he's being trained by Verity Lambert, maybe he'd learn something before taking over, but it
Yeah,
didn't sound like it.
yeah, he just kind of pissed everyone off, and yeah, probably would have been a terrible time to try to stick around much longer.
Wow.
I know that when he leaves, the current storyboarder will be leaving with him as well. I
Okay.
forget what their name is, but yeah, they end up leaving. I think it's in the Gunfighters, which is later this season.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, he wanted to make the show darker, which I can definitely say I'm starting to feel, especially considering this next story. uh, the
Yeah.
Mythmakers got a pretty
Oh
dark
man.
ending there.
The Mythmakers is so weird to me because it is so dark, but it is absolutely afraid to tell a dark story. Like, what was his name? Paris. Paris felt the most like Paris felt like an isekai character, if that makes sense. Paris felt
Yeah,
so modern and out of place in all of his dialogue that it felt like he kept breaking character, and I think that was partially the point. But you don't take it seriously. Like there's so much in this story, the Mythmakers, that you don't take seriously, despite having probably one of the darker ends to a Doctor Who story.
yeah. I mean, like the first three episodes are definitely not as dark, but then the last episode is
Mm-hmm.
just like, here we're just gonna show everyone getting slaughtered because the Doctor wanted to get to his TARDIS, so he just let them all die.
At least he like voiced that he didn't approve, but also I really don't get how they got to this point. Like
Yeah,
I don't know. Like the Doctor could have made a plan to fail, which I feel like he's done before as like diversions. Even like the first
yeah,
Doctor's done before, and he just didn't here. He's like, the story of the Trojan horse. Yeah, that's just a story, but let's actually do it. So in reality, it's not actually just a story. You made the history, Doctor, but you know.
kind of bootstrap paradoxed it into real life
Yeah, a little
because
bit.
he mentioned he heard it from Homer and then Homer heard it from him. So who came up with it first?
Yeah, maybe he was Homer all along in some reality. Who knows?
It
No,
is
but
also I find
yeah,
it a
go
bit
ahead.
funny how like so soon after he met the meddling monk, he has now done the exact thing that meddling monk was doing.
The exact thing. Yep.
Like he literally just made history right here, and he was almost going to give them flying machines as well, and like that's literally what he was doing, and you were complaining about.
Yeah. This episode felt really out of character for all of the main cast except Steven, because
Yeah,
Steven's ideals were the same, but the way he went about it all still kind of felt off as well. I guess this is where behind the scenes stuff we're having problems, because like the doctor definitely feels different here. Vicki definitely feels different, and
Yeah.
it kind of feels like they expected Steven to be the thread holding it all together, but
Hmm.
we've not had enough stories with him for him to have that role, because he's not
Yeah.
filled the role of Ian's replacement yet. So it didn't really work.
Yeah. I do find it funny how him being bad at fights kind of becomes relevant. Because like he has to fake a fight earlier, and then when he tries to escape from prison, he gets knocked out again.
Yeah.
So it's kind of become a character trait that he's not very good at fighting.
And then he gets injured at the very end with a sword. Like he
Yeah.
gets like like actual injury from being bad at fighting. Yeah, Steven's not really had any wins, to be honest.
Nope. Definitely not the action hero that Ian was.
No. But that adds to the unserious nature of it all. Like, yeah, it felt serious when he got injured in the end, but it's also one of those, we're so used to him losing fights at this point. It's just like, oh,
Yeah.
Steven, he'll be fine. Like, and I don't like
Apparently,
that.
apparently, him getting hurt was Terry Nation or like asking for that, so he could have that be the beginning of the Daleks Master Plan.
Okay.
But yeah,
Just so there's like some sort of stakes at the very beginning.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I do have to say
So,
I found it very
yeah.
funny early on where like the Doctor's imitating Zeus, so he goes up to the leader and he's asked like, "Okay, prove to us that you're a god." And he's like, "I have godly knowledge, like how your wife is cheating on you." Like, Doctor, is that really the best way to prove that? I'm
No,
not so sure.
no, it's funny because I could absolutely see some later doctors having that kind of sass, but
Yeah,
this doctor, that felt out of nowhere.
yeah.
Like that
Like
was weirdly sudden.
you would expect him to just be like telling them about like future inventions or something, but nope. It's just your wife is cheating on you, and then everyone's like laughing. It's like, yeah, we all know that already, except for this one guy in the room.
Yeah, again, this episode, the serial's a little too slapstick. It's a little too silly, and
Yeah,
it's very it's tonal whiplash, because it's supposed to be telling a rather serious story about, the siege of Troy,
yeah,
and it's somehow even more satirical than the Romans.
yeah. Pretty much is.
And I don't get it.
Also, apparently when they're producing it, they were thinking of turning like all of the episode titles into jokes, basically. So there was going to be like Zeus Ex
It was gonna be
Machina was going to
worse.
be.
Oh my
It was going to be
god.
Zeus Ex Machina was the first one, and then the final episode was going to be called "Is There a Doctor in This Horse?" Which is like okay,
All right.
but then the BBC was like, "No, those are stupid. Give them better names."
I kind of like the Zeus one, not gonna lie. I think the Zeus one actually works as a title, but the
Yeah,
Doctor and the Horse one is just dumb.
yeah. And there was also some behind the scenes uh,
Oh, I'm sure there were.
bigger problems for William Hartnell. Not only was his health declining, his aunt died while they were making this, and they didn't let him have
Ah.
the funeral off. So he's
What?
definitely
Wow.
not a fan of John Wiles.
Yeah.
So
Definitely not
yeah,
happy right now.
and like this was his aunt who like raised him and stuff. So like it was pretty
Yeah.
terrible of them to not let him attend the funeral.
Yeah. That sucks.
So yeah, he's definitely not a fan of John Wiles, and there's reasons as to why he's not around for long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that definitely that's probably gonna show. We're
Yeah,
probably actually gonna like really start to see that.
he's
But I
around for
imagine
like 4 or 5 more serials, I think, and then that's when he leaves.
that's like
So
the rest of the season, basically.
yeah, he's towards the end of the season is when he leaves.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. Interesting. I think behind the scenes though, the biggest stuff was probably for Vicki.
Yeah,
Or, the actress for Vicki, I should say.
like we mentioned it a couple episodes ago, where they come back from vacation and she's just handed the scripts for this one story, and that's it. And then that's how she finds out she's getting fired,
Yep.
which really sucks. I believe John Wiles has said after the fact that like that's the thing he regrets most is not handling that better.
Wow. I mean, yeah, it definitely should have been handled better.
Yeah,
She's a mess in this story, unfortunately.
yeah, she kind of is. Like
Like,
some of it's interesting with like her going up against the Doctor, sort of by having to help the other side of the fight. But
I
like,
really liked the premise to that. The idea that she was going to have to try to plan something against the Doctor, because that's an interesting idea, because she works well with him, but can she work
yeah,
well against him? And the idea of her coming out of the TARDIS like, no, I'm not even sugarcoating it or hiding it. I'm a time traveler. I'm from the future. Okay,
yeah,
I don't know why you're telling them this, but like there was a lot of interesting ideas for her character here that they really just pushed to the side. Like, no, she doesn't actually come up with something to stop the Doctor, and she falls in love, I guess, kind of.
yeah,
Somehow even more shoehorned in than Susan's was, because at least with
yeah,
Susan's there was some level of build up about she doesn't want to marry somebody without knowing them, and we had the whole serial watching her like actually start to fall in love with David, whereas here with Mythmakers we're told that she and Troilus like each other, and then they share food together,
yep,
and that's basically it.
yeah. You can definitely feel that like they kind of
And
rushed
then she
through.
stays for him, which makes no sense in the context.
Yeah, you can definitely feel like they just kind of rushed through everything there.
Yeah.
Like they just wanted to give her an out, and it probably wasn't intended until even like halfway through writing the serial. Maybe it wasn't even intended for her to be leaving,
Mm-hmm.
and then just kind
I'm
of threw
so
it in
sad
there.
she didn't get, like, we have only an implied goodbye. We don't have a proper goodbye from her.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's
She
implied, like, oh, I really need to talk to you, and it's the implied, okay, I'm going to stay here. I don't know why she would be even, like, allowed to stay in the fall of Troy, but
Yeah, she just pulls the
all
doctor into the
right.
TARDIS. Pulls the doctor into the TARDIS, and then we don't get to watch as they have their conversation. She gets to hug the TARDIS,
Disappointing.
though.
Sure, I guess.
And at the same time, Katarina also has, like, no introduction whatsoever. Like, we don't know anything
Nope.
about her.
We know that she's like one of two survivors of Troy. We know that she was asked to spy on Vicki and she didn't really understand why. So she's a little airheaded.
Yeah.
And we know she's only there because she had to help Steven.
Yep, pretty much. And, like, we just... It's really weird how they just rushed through everything there.
Including the introduction at the very end is as the credits are coming in, the doctor's just like, call me doctor, not God.
Yep.
Not a God. And she took that really well. She was like, "Oh, I mean, yeah, I must have died." And he's like, "No, no, you didn't." And she's like, "No, I did." And he's like, oh, "Well, if that helps you feel better, I guess."
Yeah.
Like,
Ap-
I don't know.
Apparently, Katarina was intended to be around for a while, but then writers were just having difficulties having her in sci-fi stories and stuff. So that's basically why they just decided to get rid of her partway into
Man,
Dalek's master plan.
you mean to tell me you don't have creative ideas to play around with someone from like ancient Greece and Troy to explore history? Like you don't have interesting ideas for that? That sounds so cool. Like
Yeah.
that you could do so much with that. That's why some of the most interesting companions of the Doctor are also some of the rarest ones, the ones that aren't from modern day.
Yeah. They were just thinking, like, she has, like, no understanding of science and stuff, so how do we put her on a spaceship and have her understand what's happening? I guess.
You know what would have made more
But, like,
sense?
I think from that perspective, like, people from the modern day aren't that much better, to be honest. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, from that
we kind of
perspective, they really
understand it.
aren't.
We kind of understand it, but, like, they're so far advanced from us that we're closer to Troy.
Yeah,
So, like,
exactly.
you can make it work if you want to. But I guess
I think
they just...
I think it would have been more interesting if Vicky brought Troilus in the TARDIS, and that was the new crew. To be honest, not to
Yeah.
say get out, Steven, but I think as a premise, Troilus would have been more interesting and more inquisitive of everything than Katarina, who
Yeah.
had like 2 lines in the entire serial.
Yeah.
A little bit more, but
I mean, like I said, I think she has under 100 lines in total for her entire tenure.
Man,
So
that's frustrating.
I think she's in the first 4 episodes of Dalek Master Plan.
Oh, she's not even in the whole thing?
Nope. She's only for
Wow.
part of it. And then they have essentially like a temporary companion for the last 8.
Okay.
And I did find
that
it
is ridiculous.
I found it so weird how, again, the young companion gets married. Like the adult companions, like I mean, we know eventually they did, but it's not said in the show. But then it's like the 16-year-old characters; those are the ones that they decide have to get married when they leave.
I at least appreciate the fact that they established that Troilus is right around the same age as Vicki, though.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I think he said he's like just shy of 17 or like just turned 17. And she's like, oh, that's
Yeah.
barely older than me. So I guess she's around 15 or 16. So I'm not as bothered by that in this case because at least they're around the same age. What I am
Yeah.
bothered by is how out of nowhere this entire plotline was for her.
Yeah, it definitely is a bit weird. Like, I guess she kind of had the thing where, like, she just didn't have a place. She didn't have a home, so she was looking for a home.
Yeah, but like the
stuff,
TARDIS was her
but-
home. She
Yeah.
loved the TARDIS.
It's definitely very rushed for her to just decide, well, I met a guy. Goodbye, doctor.
Yeah.
And I feel
And
like
for,
she has...
for him to have nothing to say either about it.
Hasn't she had, like, comments and stuff where, like, she would definitely not want to... Like when Ian and Barbara left, she was like, I don't want to be in that time. They don't have any technology. And then she
Yep.
decides to stay in Troy. Which is,
Yep.
you know... That's weird.
Yeah, as someone from the future, it's weird that she chose to stay in the far past. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
Her first adventure outing in the Romans was like fun, but
Yeah.
I don't think she was comfortable with all that.
Mm-hmm.
It does
Speaking of
feel
Romans-
like it goes against her established character.
Yeah, and speaking of Romans, I mean, the Doctor has destroyed 2 cities now.
That's true.
He just keeps
He's
doing
been
that.
responsible for a lot. This serial is also interesting with Odysseus and Achilles, and the way Troilus beats Achilles is kind of stupid.
Yeah.
Because, Achilles is going to play a role in the stories. You know what that means? His heel.
I kind of found it a bit interesting how it's essentially like they're kind of trying to do a lot of different myths all together simultaneously.
Mhm.
It's a little interesting. Sometimes I feel like it kind of fell flat a bit with some of them.
I
Yeah.
do think most of this episode, unfortunately, fell flat. But
Yeah.
or most of the serial, I should say.
I
Which is
do
a
think
shame.
it is nice, though, because apparently the writer for this was used to writing radio plays. So, like, this episode definitely works with not being able to see it properly.
It did. It did.
Like-
Outside of the fight scenes, which I think those could have been a bit better.
Yeah. But, like, the sound and everything gets the whole story across because, like, the guy has
Yeah.
history with radio plays, so it just works.
Yeah. Yeah, it actually did work pretty well in this one. This was one of the easier ones to watch in the format that we had.
Yeah.
But that being said, I do still... I wish the final product here was a lot better because the circumstances around it definitely hurt it a lot. Like
Yeah.
firing Vicki. Because that
Yeah.
was just dumb. And it's just a shame. Just the way
Yeah.
it was handled and that they had to fire Vicki or that they chose to fire Vicki. And I would have liked to see a better end for her and maybe even just a better wrap up to this serial as a whole. Because
Yeah.
you could parallel Fires of Pompeii here. The idea of just save someone. Make that be how Katarina and maybe Troilus go with the Doctor, right? Like,
Yeah.
you caused this, so save someone.
It's especially funny because, like, Vicki tells Troilus, like, get out of the city when, like, she could just tell him to hide in the TARDIS. Right? That would save his life. She could just say that and problem solved.
And then she would have had him along for the adventure instead of, you know, having to stay there. I don't know.
Yeah. They did eventually, for the Blu-ray release of season 2, they did have like a sequel essentially to this, which was like a 3-minute.
Epilogue.
It's like 3 minutes of just Vicki telling stories to her granddaughter, so we get to know that, like, you know, she had a good family and everything.
Yep.
And
stayed
and
in
then
that time period.
She also showed up in Tales of the TARDIS as well for
right.
Time Meddler, which kind of further establishes that, like, she had a good life with Troilus and
Yeah.
And then obviously
Thankfully.
Maureen O'Brien has also been back for Big Finish as well. She has done multiple Vicki stories. In
That's good.
the Once in Future story, she plays a different character in the finale, which is nice because Carol Ann Ford is there as Susan, so they get to work together for the first time.
Oh wow, that's actually kind of cool. But
Yeah.
although not as the same characters, but
Well, Carol Ann Ford
not
is
both
Susan,
as the same
but
characters.
she's not Vicki in that.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, I guess this is our goodbye to Vicki, I suppose.
Which
all right, I guess
definitely
Cressida now is her name.
Out of all these. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she leaves the name Vicki behind too, which is even weirder. No, I definitely think out of the companions we've had thus far, she has the weakest end, which is so unfortunate because I think she had some really good highs. Like she as a whole was better than Susan, but Susan's conclusion made so much more sense for her character and was handled better than Vicky's. And that's really unfortunate.
Yeah, you can definitely feel like they just rushed through getting rid of her. They definitely could have given her a better ending, maybe even just kept her for, like, part of Dalek's master plan and then given her an ending there.
Yep.
Something like that. But, yeah, it's unfortunate when, like, it's relationships falling apart behind the scenes that makes them decide to just get rid of a character out of nowhere, because you normally you always feel like it just came out of nowhere when this stuff like that happens.
Yeah, and there's sadly no nice way to do it, and it's a problem of like the contracts from back then and the way it was all handled, and I don't know. I just hope we don't end up with problems like that in the future again. like you know, and like the actual future Doctor Who, I hope we don't end up with more like that nowadays comparatively. I mean, yes, we have like Christopher Eccleston and all that with the Ninth Doctor leaving when he did, but at least that they wrote a regeneration story that worked for him. Like, I hope we don't see problems like this in the future of the show of like, oh, this person's not good to work with, so we're just kind of gonna end their story early, because it just sucks.
Yeah,
it really does.
I know in season 3 of Doctor Who, there's kind of a lot of endings that just come out of nowhere for multiple characters.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Because I think Dodo Chaplet comes back, or like she's a companion that we're gonna have later in the season. I think her ending is just like the new companions just say, like, tell the Doctor, like, she just decided to stay here. Like, she doesn't even tell the Doctor herself or something.
Wow.
So it's just like,
man.
they're not good at writing endings in this season, from what I understand.
Ooh, this is gonna be a frustrating season. I could tell. All right.
I think Steven gets a good ending, at least, sort of. Like, I only know vague details about it, but it sounds like probably better thought out. But yeah,
well, we'll find that out.
They kind of just rush through things with a lot of characters here.
Yeah, seriously.
I know in Dalek's master plan, our temporary companion, like, literally told them, I have 8 weeks to work with you. So they just kept her for those 8 weeks. So she was always intended to just be for episodes 5 to 12 of Dalek's master plan, and that was it.
Yeah, okay.
Whether or not she counts as a companion is complicated, because, like, she's only in one story, but also she's in the show for twice as long as her predecessor, so, like, technically we have to count her as a companion.
If you count Katarina, you have to count her, yeah.
And she is played by Jean Marsh, who was the princess in The Crusade, who was the ex-wife of John Pertwee, that woman.
Oh, that's funny.
So yeah, she comes back. Also, in Dog's Master Plan. We also get Nicholas Courtney, if you recognize that name. He is the Brigadier.
Oh.
He's not the Brigadier
Yeah.
yet, but he is. This is his first time in Doctor Who in this story.
Yeah, just introduction to the show. That's cool.
Yep. So it's kind of a funny little thing there, where you get like people that you recognize.
Yeah,
in that
early
story.
on before they're the stars they are.
Yeah. And also, apparently Peter Purvis's favorite story was The Mythmakers, which I guess. I feel like that's a little weird one to like.
That is a weird one to like, but I guess when you look
for
at
him,
the stories we've had thus far, it's one of the ones that had him do the most.
Yeah. From Steven's perspective, it was probably one of the better ones so far, at least. Just from everyone else's, not so much.
Yeah. Maybe he just really liked having to do the sword fighting.
Yeah, maybe. Could also be that like he liked like the costumes and stuff, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
I will also say that unfortunately, John Wiles decided not to hire the people that were taking pictures of all of the stories and stuff. It was like the Telesnap service is what it was called, where like the BBC would hire people to take pictures of their episodes as they're going. So unfortunately, it's more difficult to do reconstructions for these stories.
Yeah.
So they're not going to look as good as the other ones did. Like you might have noticed that with the Mythmakers, that like it's very obviously like photoshopping people onto backgrounds and stuff.
Yeah. I was gonna say there was a lot of times that definitely looked like really edited. Also, just the moment in the reconstruction when Vicki and Troilus kiss, as it fades out, it's so like immediate snap to them kissing, and it's already fading. There's no like, it doesn't stay on it at all. I found that like actually like unintentionally really funny.
Yeah. But yeah, John Wiles is only around until I think it was the Gunfighters. So like until that point, we will have not very good reconstructions. Although I think we're only missing Dog's Master Plan and the Massacre out of these, I think, and then Ark, I think, is surviving, and then Celestial Toymaker. Obviously, we have or an animated version that just came out.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, we're getting to that on the sooner end.
Yep. I guess if there's not much more to say about Vicki, we do have a bit of news that has shown up recently.
Ah, yes.
So, the Star Trek and Doctor Who mobile games have a crossover now, which I guess we should mention, but personally, I don't have much interest in either of them. They don't look like fun games.
I didn't even know there was a Star Trek mobile game to be getting this Doctor Who event, to be honest. Neat, I guess. I don't care personally, but...
It's neat. They're not fun-looking games from an outsider's perspective. They're just like very obviously mobile games, and I don't really play those.
Yeah, same.
I only play the Nintendo ones, personally. And even then, it's occasional.
Yeah, same. It really just depends.
Yeah. But also from Comic-Con, we also have... It was officially confirmed that Verada Sethu's character's name is Belinda Chandra. And we kind of heard about that already.
We heard about her first name being Belinda, yeah. Though Chandra we didn't know about before, and I know that's already sparked some interesting fan theories.
Has it? I can't say I've heard them.
So Chandra is the same last name as Rani Chandra, one of the main characters of Sarah Jane Adventures, and the actress for her is still involved in Doctor Who. She played the alien queen whose name escapes me in the Nikola Tesla episode. So she's still involved in Doctor Who, and she's done some audio stories, because she's basically the character continuing Sarah Jane's legacy. Because throughout the Sarah Jane Adventures spin-off show, she was kind of the one that was following in Sarah Jane's footsteps.
Gotcha.
So having the same last name is interesting. Unless she comes from the future or is an ancestor from the past, she can't be like her kid or something, though, because I think in modern day her character would only be like 25 to 30, somewhere around there. And I don't think she'd be old enough to have a kid that would be like Ruby's age, at least. She's not old enough for that. So I do know that I see some people speculating that, but I don't think that would make sense.
we did see like set photos of them, like in the
Mm-hmm.
like the 50s or something, costume wise.
Yeah.
Although that could
Yeah.
just be that like they went there afterwards.
I really hope she's actually a companion from a different era, because we don't
Yeah,
get it enough.
it would be nice to see.
Mm-hmm.
I guess
But yeah, I don't think she actually has any relation to Ronnie.
it could be like
I think
sisters or
that's just a
something.
coincidence. Maybe,
I guess we'll
or
have to
like
wait to
cousins or
see.
something. Yeah. Yeah. We'll see.
My
We'll
my
see.
biggest question is like I feel like she's probably gonna have to still try to play into like the adoptive stuff because like that's definitely
Mm-hmm.
the like the whole idea that he's playing with right now. So like I'm kind of wondering like how like has she been adopted by her family as well or something like that? Because I
Oh,
feel like that's
maybe.
it's definitely what he's wanting to do with the show right now.
Yeah, and they said that she's going to tie into like the Dot and Ruby story. Like she's very much
Yeah,
intertwining their story, which is why she becomes a companion as well.
makes you wonder what's going on there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
I would also like just like to make a note that for the audio commentary for the Empire of Death, Russell T Davis did say that it's intentional that Ruby makes the mistake of calling her birth family her real family. Like that's not it's not a mistake on his part, it's a mistake on the character's part. So like I have a bit more faith in how he's going to
Ah,
handle that next season. I still think
okay,
it
okay.
was very messy this season, but
Yeah,
knowing that he knows that she's not supposed to say that is good to hear.
that is good to hear. We got to see how that goes, of course, but gives me
I
some
feel
hope.
like I feel like you could have had the doctor make a weird face when he said that or something, just to make sure that in the episode it comes across as a mistake. But I guess
Yeah,
next
because it
season we'll
didn't
see
really come
more.
across that way.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll see.
but
But
yeah,
I'm definitely curious to see what happens with Belinda. It'll be like a year until we really see all
yeah.
that. But
I feel like
but I'm
it could be
definitely
like early next year, possibly, that we're gonna get season two because we have a
maybe
spinoff to come later in the year.
that's
So they
true.
might
That's true.
push it even
May,
earlier
may,
than this one was.
yeah, so maybe not quite starting in like late May or like mid May. Maybe instead starting in like March or April kind of thing.
Yeah,
Maybe we'll see.
yeah. I don't think there was much else from Comic Con that was said.
I don't
It's all I remember
believe
hearing.
so. Yeah, I think that was the main. I mean, last episode we talked about the biggest things of
Yeah,
the spinoff and all. So this was kind of like the straggling, the straggling bit of news.
I did like one person when they were asking questions asked, "Is Drax ever going to come back?" Which is a very random character to ask about. Like, not even just like the whole Paternoster gang, specifically Strax, which was
Strax,
funny. And he was,
specifically Strax.
and Russell Davis was like, well, not right now. I have no current plans.
I want the Paternoster game to come back because I think they're so interesting, and it's so disappointing that they haven't been seen since Capaldi's first episode.
Yeah, and now that you have a bigger budget, you could probably have them in more because obviously it's a lot of like makeup and costuming and stuff for two of them.
Yeah,
It's probably why they didn't use them that much. But now you have a bigger budget, so you can probably handle having them in a bit more.
yeah. Like just make them be essentially the unit for the Victorian era.
Yeah,
Or like have some times where they have to be brought to like modern day or something to help solve a problem. Like there's so much you could do with those characters that they aren't. Not
yeah,
I don't know if they could do like a whole spin-off around them. I mean, they have an audio spin-off, but I
yeah.
don't know.
They have
They're
a lot of
underutilized,
Big Finish.
sadly. Hmm.
The issue with doing a spin-off is that like you don't really want your main characters to be in costume like that the whole time for a spin-off
Yeah.
because it costs a lot of money.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's probably why they never got one in the Moffat era. Just it just costs money. You can do it in Big Finish a
Hmm.
lot easier though because you don't have to worry about the
Yeah.
costumes.
That's true.
So I guess that's it for today's episode. So for the next episode, we're just going to be doing one serial because it's very long, and that is the
Very
Daleks'
long.
Master Plan. So in the Daleks' Master Plan, episodes 2, 5, and 10 survive. If you have BBC iPlayer, they're on there. The other ones are all like loose cannon reconstructions exist of them, so you can find them by looking around online. So just to make a note, if you would like to get episode or if you would like to get access to these episodes early, you can join our Patreon, where for just $1 a month you can get into our Discord and also get early access to episodes. And then we have a higher tier for $5 a month where you can watch live as we record, and you can be in a text chat with us. And like, if you like the Mythmakers, you could try to convince us otherwise. Try to convince us that Peter Purvis is actually right, that it's the best episode. Oh, and speaking of Peter Purvis, I would like to just note that apparently he actually showed up for when they were filming Mission to the Unknown to watch, which is a bit funny. Apparently, it was also his birthday or something, so they gave him a birthday cake. Like,
wait, like the original one or like the recreation?
The recreation one.
Ah, okay.
Because on the Doctor YouTube channel, they also had like a making of documentary that I watched, and yeah, okay. he showed up to watch it. So did the guy that originally played the main character in this one, who did like the intro on the episode.
Mm-hmm.
He also showed up to watch them record it and stuff.
That's cool.
But yeah. So as a reminder, make sure to watch Dog's Master Plan before our next episode. You can find Loose Cannon Productions reconstruction of it. And if you support us on Patreon for just $1 a month, you can gain access to our Discord, as well as early access to episodes. I've been Joy. You can find me on social media at JoyContent.
And I've been Triss. You can find me on social media at ToonTriss.
And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.